positive pioneers. Back in the beginning, they lived in still do, Washita City, Arizona. She was the first director in Cochise County and would drive to Tucson, Arizona, which was an hour and a half away, to get her first facial. She didn't even try the products first. But she knew in her spirit, something moved inside of her. God actually made some miracles happen with little pink boxes in the middle of a florist. All these years, she's just been in love with Mary Kay, in love with the woman, the philosophy, the company. And she is on the threshold of becoming an independent national sales director. We could not be prouder. Top director, $550,000 unit club, driving a pretty pink Cadillac. But now is the time, like Jordan so beautifully said, it's time for progress, and she's ready. So, Marye Durrer, we would love to hear from your beautiful words of wisdom. Give it up for National Sales Director, BAM, Marye Durrer. This last year, Mary did something that, I don't know of anybody that ever did or even had the thought to do it. She hiked the Arizona Trail. It's 800 miles. 800 plus miles. Like hiking with the backpack and the tent and the hiking 800 plus miles through Arizona like crazy. And then she ended up at the Grand Canyon with a big celebration with her family. It was really her private dream. We knew about it in Mary Kay because we know her life and what she's doing. But it was an internal desire and dream, partially to honor her brother. Her brother really had a dream to do this, and Mary and her brother Chuck did it together, and her husband Chuck said he was the Chuck wagon because he provided the food. You had to drop them off and pick them up at the end of the hike. It was a team effort. They were in the trifecta, and one could not do it without the other. Mary needed her brother Chuck to keep each other going, and they needed her husband Chuck to be there with her. And so what she learned in this journey, she's going to share a little bit about what that all meant to her and what she really had to do in her spirit, and now she thinks that's really helped her prepare for her next season. So please welcome Arizona Trail Hiker, National Bound, Marye Durrer.
I'm taking this everywhere I go because this so represents all of us personally this year. Well, let me start off by just sharing this with you. It is 1 year ago, exactly today, that I lost my sister, my best friend, and my offspring sales director, Ann Hill. Ann was a wise mentor to me. Losing her this year has totally been an emotional challenge. But let me just share this with you. God is so good. He is so good. And the blessings that have been bestowed on me and our future national area this year are incredible, to the point that we have never been closer to national than we are now. But I do have to tell you something. 2 years ago, I had a conversation with this wise sister of mine, and I said, Ann, I'm just loving my life so much. I was newly remarried, and I said, I don't really think I want to be a national now. I think I'll just be a sales director until the day I die, because I love it so much. And there was silence. I thought she had hung up on me. She was so disappointed. No. And she said, no, that's unacceptable. We've dreamed about this for years. I'm going to be on stage with you when you debut as a national. It's our dream together. You can't give up your dream. Well, when my sister passed away last year, this conversation has just stayed with me. It's like, I can't let it go. I feel like I was destined to be on this journey, and this journey would take us to a new national area. And this 2020 vision, if our area embraces it this year, we will be on that stage at seminar as a brand new trailblazing national area. So, with my conversations that I had with Cindy, I would share tidbits about the trail and what I learned and how I felt it paralleled Mary Kay. So, let me just share this with you, though, that when I decided to hike the Arizona Trail, of course, it was to be with my brother, and to just experience the beauty of Arizona that you can only see by foot. Little did I know that, physically, emotionally, mentally, and best of all, spiritually, that I would change so much from just hiking a trail. So, as my husband, Chuck Wagon, as we fondly call him, was dropped us off, and then he picked us up at the end of the sections that we hiked. Most of the hiking that we did, we had to spend at least one night on the trail. And at the most, 3 nights on the trail without seeing him. But when we could meet up with him, he would have food prepared and water supplies for us, so it was great. We had so much support. And I'm just going to share some of my trail lessons with you that I like to call treasures from the trail. Treasures from the trail because they so relate to our American business and to my growth this year. The first one is preparation is key. For the trail, it was not just with clothing, equipment, maps, GPS configurants, food, and water, but physically and mentally. Physically, it required about 6 months of conditioning and hiking before I began the trail. And I would read about each hike beforehand so I knew if it was considered moderate, difficult, or strenuous. I wanted to be prepared. And sometimes I would nervously talk with Chuck and I would say, I don't know if I can do it. And he would reassure me and he would say, you can do it. Just like we can do it. So that reassurance, I just knew I could, and I did. But preparation is also paying attention to detail, so it can save time and other resources. On only one of our hikes did we misjudge our hiking time by a large amount of time. We estimated an amount of time we would need before Chuck picked us up. On this particular hike, self-service was limited, and as we realized we would not be there at the estimated time, I knew Chuck would be worried. We ran out of water, but because we were prepared for emergencies, we had water filters and were able to resupply from a stock tank. Doesn't sound glamorous, but the water was delicious after it was filtered. I always felt totally reliant on God, especially during times that could have been very stressful. Charles and I always prayed before each hike. When I was alone with God hiking, I asked him to reveal the things to me that I felt I most needed in my life. And hiking in the wilderness with no people, houses, or towns for miles and miles is the perfect time for him to get my attention. Because I approached each hike with a positive attitude and expected the best, I feel that the mishaps that we had on occasion were not disasters. So much pertains to Mary Kay. Preparing for our businesses is nothing to take for granted. Being prayerfully prepared is so important. Preparation is key not only with supplies and product, but positive mental attitude before each appointment or meeting because we never know what to expect. Conditioning or holding parties and staying in the field is important, or we get rusty and stale with our business. Preparing for a career jump is always important. We should know that each level of the career path, what it has to offer ahead of time. The second is focus. Focus or you'll get fragmented. When I took my eyes off the trail, I would stumble, and I did fall several times. Taking time out to refresh and enjoy the scenery is necessary, but it also factored into the time I have to get to my destination. And such is true with Marye Kay. When we get fragmented and we get off course with our goals, we lose momentum, and we lose sight of what we are working for. The third thing is to expect and have the and then some, as Marye Kay always taught. Never have just enough. If we had not carried filtering systems, extra food, and allowed for extra time, we may have needed to use our spot, which is an instrument that allows us to press a button and the closest 911 center is notified that we have an emergency. It shows where we are. With GPS, there's so many amazing things. We never had to use it. Many rescues are done a year on the Arizona Trail, and mainly because people weren't prepared. And they weren't willing to carry extra water. We always had weight, and that was water. We never went without enough water, except that one time when we had to filter. But we expected to have to do that. We expected to have to carry the extra weight. We need to carry on more in our businesses. The emergency that can result is not enough product to service customers and not enough education to train our teams. When we do not allow for more, we are not prepared for the unexpected, and it is not anyone else's responsibility to come to our rescue. Now, here's what we can do for others in time of need. When it comes to moral support, there is always enough. Number 4, never assume anything. Even when we feel a new month in Mary Kay will be a breeze because we have lots of bookings lined up, customers that need to order, and we stayed on top of our training and listened to all that is new on InTouch site, we mustn't assume that adversity won't come up and we need to be prepared for it. Which leads me to my favorite treasure I want to share with you. Don't get comfortable and complacent in the seasons of your life. We had completed over 750 miles with 60 miles of the Arizona Trail left to finish in May. Now, normally, this is a pretty nice time of year to hike in northern Arizona. When we scheduled the time to do this on our calendars, we assumed it would be perfect weather and perfect trail conditions. But as we drew closer to hiking time, the weather forecast changed. It looked bleak. Heavy snow was predicted. Arizona's weather is unpredictable, so we kept our schedule. We prepared for the weather with gloves, hats, rain gear, and warm clothes. It snowed, not just a little, but a lot. Chuck had already set up our campsite, so the question was, did we hike or not? But we were on a schedule. We had to do it. A large number of family members were coming to meet us for a hiking celebration in Williams, Arizona, near the Grand Canyon. And they were coming from as far as North Carolina. So we had a large house rented for that occasion, and it was already paid for. So we had to finish. I started getting excited about hiking. It would be a first because we had experienced everything, deserts, rain, and now snow. So I had bought crampons earlier in the year. These are special things that go on your shoes in the case of ice or snow. And my brother told me to get them. And I kind of laughed, thinking, oh yeah, we'll never be hiking in the snow. Guess what? We were prepared. And I did need those crampons for my shoes. And we would be able to say, we hiked in all the extreme conditions. Oh, I did already say that. Okay. The hike was one of the most beautiful hikes ever. We were richly rewarded for adverse conditions. The glistening snowpack, the beautiful pines that smelled so fresh, the deep blue sky, I was taken with it all. Now, northern Arizona has not experienced spring. It was bombarded with snowfalls, freezing temperatures, and as I hiked, I observed that the beautiful aspen trees, even with the cold temperatures, were beginning to bud out. The heavy snow formed tiny snowballs on the leaves, and though it was beautiful, the tiny leaves were struggling to embrace warm spring days. I instantly received a message from this observation. Don't get comfortable and complacent of your life. I stopped on the trail, pulled out my cell phone, and went immediately into my Samsung notes because I knew these were words that I was meant to carry forward. I knew that this message I needed revelation about personally. As I continued down the trail, I realized how thankful to God I needed to be for the seasons in my life that He has in store for me. If we had decided not to hike because of the snow, we would have missed out on the beautiful snowfall that was created all around us. But I realized that the seasons of my life offer the same treasures if I would just embrace them and not try to control them. Welcoming God's unpredictability in our lives allows Him to give us what is best for us. Allow Him to control the seasons, but don't expect them to be of any predictable nature. Just as the beautiful aspens can't control the spring and have to wait for warmer days to fully blossom out, we must also trust God that in those seasons we may be uncomfortable and they may be of a shorter or longer duration than we want them to be. But now here's the revelation that I took from all of this. The analogy. Arizona has been in a drought for many years. The incredible rain and snowfall this year is what I believe is part of God's plan to restore the moisture. I'm sure the Aspens don't know that, but they embrace the moisture and they do what they're supposed to do, eventually having a full leaf spread. Just like the aspen, what is going on behind the scenes in our lives, if we will just allow God to be in charge. We don't know what He has in store. Maybe we're in a drought, and God is watering us with the opportunities of adverse circumstances to gain wisdom and strength. Final thing that I want to share with you is that some people hike the Arizona Trail straight through. That wasn't for us. We wanted the flexibility of hiking it when we wanted to do it, so we hiked it in sections. But you know what? The end result is the same. We finished all 800 plus miles, and we accomplished our goal. Our Mary Kay businesses are the same way. Every facial class, team building appointment that we add to our activity will result in a goal accomplished. It's important to work with an end result in place. Time frames may change because of our individual seasons, but we just have to trust that God has seasons and knows what is best for us.